News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB. And you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you to retire that job but keep your paycheck. And of course, with me is Mr. Brice Payne. Good morning, Brice.
Good morning, Doug. How you doing?
I'm doing good. And I'll tell you what, with all that nice warm weather we had this past week, I am really getting spring fever.
It's a gorgeous day out there right now, and I'm looking forward to the freezes being over, no question about it. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is the Wealth Guardians radio show, and as you may know at this point, we have started in 2024 a little quick segment called Getting to Know Your Wealth Guardians Advisor, where I throw a question out to Doug and everybody out there as well, and then Doug throws the same question back to me. So, Doug, here is the question to help people a little bit better getting to know their Wealth Guardian Advisor. Do you currently, or have you ever had, a nickname?
Well, I guess my call sign in the Navy, it was Crusher. So.
Crusher. Oh, that is a good nickname. Absolutely.
Don't ask me how I got it.
I can see you being a crusher as well, whether it came to clams or whatever it was. I can see that. And so ask me, do I currently have or have I ever had a nickname? And actually the answer to that is yes. My nickname is Brico. Almost my name, B-R-I-C-E, but with an O at the end, B-R-I-C-O. And the reason that came about was when I was in the Peace Corps in Honduras, they can't say the I sound very well.
Okay.
It's hard for them. I don't know why, because you hear I, but they can't say the I sound very well. So we changed it to Brico, which is kind of cool because it's Rico, which means rich, with a B in the front of it. Yeah. So that's my nickname, and has been. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead. Doug, throw out the Wealth Guardian Service salute, if you would, please.
Yeah, we just want to give our heartfelt thanks to all of our service members, our first responders, and to your families, because they sacrifice too so that you can look after us and help us and so forth. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And sentiment goes well over on this side as well, and particularly to the families out there. Well, Doug, what are we covering in this in this segment or both segments today this weekend?
Yeah, so we're going to dig into that mailbag and dig out some questions that our listeners have written into us and try to help them out.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get to the very first one here. And it's been about a month since we did this, and that's how often we try to do it. Dan in Winston-Salem comes to us, and he says, Doug and Brice and Garrett, I've always donated to several different charities at the end of each year, but since the tax laws changed a few years ago, it seems that it didn't benefit me from a tax standpoint. Am I missing something here, or does it really not help my taxes anymore? And then he also, a little disclaimer here, goes, and yes, I realize there are other reasons to give a charity other than the tax break. So, Dan, thank you for the question. And Doug, what say you? I know that the Trump tax laws, the standard deduction, went up to a point that a lot of people have the same sentiment that Dan does.
Yeah, and you're right, Dan. I mean, there's always other reasons to give to a charity. My family, we certainly give to different charities. And, Brice, we were talking about this morning. You came in and you discovered this interesting 5-year charitable rule. Can you explain that to the listeners?
It's not going to apply to everyone, so I want to make sure everyone understands that we are not CPAs here. We are not licensed tax preparers, but we do know a bit about taxes, particularly when it comes to retirement. And Dan, there are some situations out there where charitable donations can be carried forward for 5 years. Now, this doesn't apply to everybody, and I'm not sure even what all the circumstances are that would make you qualify or keep you from qualifying. So I'd want you to talk to your CPA, but there may be a way for you to store up 5 years of charitable donations if you are just if you're just using the standard deduction, and maybe you can pile them all together in 5 years and try it that way. And then there's also something called look into a QCD. I don't know how old you are, Dan, but if you are over 73, there are some ways to give to charity that out of your RMDs that you'll be forced to take if you have a retirement account of there. So some additional information that we don't have on you, Dan, that if the answers go right, you may be able to take advantage of some charitable donations out there instead of just taking the standard deduction. So that's your answer there in a nutshell, Dan. But I do thank you for that. And there's a lot of circumstances out there, a lot of details in one's plan that has Doug and I constantly saying, it depends. It depends. It depends. And we don't, often Doug, somebody doesn't give us all the information that we would need to know in one of these quick questions that would have us be able to give you an exact answer to your specific situation.
And Brice, let me add to this qualified charitable donation, because we've got several clients that are doing this. It's a great way, especially if you don't need your required minimum distribution to live on. It's a great way to keep that thing from getting taxed and just give it directly to a charity. But I stumbled on something called a split gift annuity.
Yes.
Which takes a QCD to a higher level. We're going to do a vault episode on it and outline it in more detail. But simply said, you can do a $53,000 once in a lifetime donation from your IRA if you have required minimum distributions. Put it into a charitable gift annuity. That counts as a gift to the annuity.
Okay.
But then you get a taxable income off of that $53,000 for the rest of your life.
A taxable income.
A taxable income,
okay.
Right. So it's a great way to benefit yourself and a charity.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And if you caught what Doug said there, he referred to, we're going to do a vault episode on that. You might be wondering what is Doug referring to when he says a vault episode. Just so you are aware, all of the radio episodes that you listen to, if you're coming to us from Radio Land out there on a weekend morning, we video record all of these radio episodes. And you can go to our website, thewealthguardians.com, and you can actually watch Doug, Garrett, and myself having recorded these radio shows. But on top of the radio shows, once a week we release something called The Vault, which is an additional, can be anywhere as 3 minutes up to 15-minute talk on a specific subject that is kind of timeless out there. So sometimes these radio shows are pertaining to topics happening right here and now, but the Vault episodes tend to be timeless. So we've got probably, Doug, about maybe approaching over 50 out there right now.
I think it's probably tops that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So very good. So if you want to check us out at thewealthguardians.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel, The Wealth Guardians, and watch both these radio recordings and the Vault episodes as well. So thank you for that. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray. I'm Brice Payne, along with Doug Ray in the studio this week, and we are doing our listener mailbag questions. So people write into us and ask questions about their particular circumstances and see what our thoughts are on it. So the first one came to us from Dan in Winston-Salem. We now move to Jenny in Kernersville. And Jenny says, Doug and Brice and Garrett, I got a raise recently, and I want to be sure I put the extra money to good use instead of just going out to eat more often. Should I save more money for retirement, or should I use it to pay extra on my mortgage?
Oh, good question. And I like the way Jenny's thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a common, Jenny, I do like your question, just like Doug does, but it's a common question. Mm-hmm. We get this quite frequently. And Doug, the short answer is?
Well, it depends.
It depends. There you go.
But, you didn't tell us what your mortgage rate is.
That's the number one thing. That's one of the main factors that we need to know right there, Jenny.
If you're lucky and got like a 2 and a 3% rate, maybe paying that mortgage down isn't the smart move. I'm thinking if you don't have a Roth IRA, maybe put some money into a Roth IRA.
Get that 5-year clock ticking so that you're not opening it too late, Jenny. Again, just like Dan earlier, we don't know how old you are. So that's going to play into it as well. And as Doug said, the mortgage rate. Now, Dan said, look, with this higher standard deduction, there's a lot of things that we can't claim now. And Jenny, you might be in that same boat where you don't get to claim the interest payments, subtracting that from your income because you're taking the standard deduction. But that goes away, at least as it's set for now. That's set to go away in 2025.
Yeah.
So maybe, Jenny, if you hang on to that mortgage, you'll be able to claim the interest payments again as part of your deductions.
And she didn't tell us if she has any credit card debt. At 25% interest now, pay that stuff off.
That's a very good point there, Doug. So, Jenny, is the mortgage your only debt? If so, we can have that conversation. If it is not your only debt and you have something like credit card payments, as Doug says, you generally want to tackle the highest interest rate payments first. And your mortgage is probably not going to be your highest interest rate payment. So if you've got some other debt out there, maybe even a car loan or student loans, sometimes those rates are, more often than not, those rates are higher than your mortgage. And you would want to tackle, by conventional wisdom, your highest interest rate payments first. So, Jenny, thank you for that question. And, I will bring to everybody's attention out there, if you want to sit down and have a conversation with a holistic financial planner, that's what we are at the Wealth Guardians. That we are set apart a little bit from an investment advisor who simply asks you, how much money do you have to invest? And here's what's your timeline, how long until you want to invest it, what kind of risk do you feel comfortable with? Okay, here's the proper set of investments for you. That is one thing that a financial planner does. They incorporate investment advice into their overall scheme of what they are doing for a client. However, you might have noticed that Dan's question about donating to charities and Jenny's question about whether or not to pay a mortgage off early or not, those aren't investment advice questions. Well, we here at the Wealth Guardians are financial planners, holistic financial planners. So we take a look at everything that has to do with money, and particularly when it comes to retirement, and make sure that not only are your accounts invested in the proper way, but they're structured distribution-wise in the right way so that you are not paying Uncle Sam more than you need to. And if you'd be interested in sitting down with the Wealth Guardians, Doug Garrett and or myself, and having a holistic financial planning conversation to see if there's any services or whatnot that we can provide you that you are missing out on and don't get currently from whatever your advisor situation is, I'd encourage you to give us a call. There's no cost or obligation to sit down with us. And our phone number is 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. You can also reach out to us at our website, thewealthguardians.com, and see what it is that we can help you out with in getting prepared for retirement. All right. Well, Jenny, thank you for that question. Pardon me. Doug, it's time for us to go into a break, but we've got a trivia question that we've got to ask here first.
I can't wait.
And I'm going to thank Garrett out there. He's not in the studio with us this morning, but he's around, and so he wanted to pen the trivia question specifically for you, Doug.
Oh, I can't wait now.
So here we are. Doug, the 1968 American rock band Three Dog Night initially went by which of the following names? And so you know out there, Three Dog Night apparently is one of Doug's favorite bands out there, and Garrett knew that, so that's why he did this trivia question. In 1968, American rock band Three Dog Night initially went by which of the following names? Longview, Redwood, or the Sounders? A, Longview, B, Redwood, or C, the Sounders? All right, Doug's shaking his head like, Garrett, I'm going to talk to you when this whole thing is over. All right. Well, stick around for the answer to that trivia question to see if Garrett stumped Doug on the other side of this short break. This is Brice Payne with Doug Gray. The show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM WTOB. News Talk 94.5 WPTI. 96.7 FM WTOB. You're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne along with Doug Ray, and in this second segment, we're going to continue dipping into the listener mailbag and answering questions from the viewing public out there. Thank you for listening. Now, before we get to our trivia question that we asked Doug, I've got two questions for you. A, are you looking forward to your retirement? And B, do you want to make sure you're making the best financial decisions for your retirement? Those are almost rhetorical questions because I know what the answer is. So you answered yes to both those questions, so I've got great news for you. We here at the Wealth Guardians offer a no-cost, no-obligation second opinion / review of your retirement plan. This includes a deep analysis of your assets, your investment portfolio, your insurance policies, income needs, risk tolerance, risk exposure, tax mitigation strategies, legacy goals, and even the fees that you are currently paying. So here's our goal. We want to help you lower your fees. We want to help you align your risk and improve your overall retirement picture so you can indeed retire the job and keep the paycheck. But to get this whole process started, the ball's in your court. You have to give us a call. We don't know how to reach you. So here's our number, 336-391-3409. That's how you reach us, 336-391-3409. You can also reach out to us at our website, thewealthguardians.com. Again, no cost or obligation to sit down with Doug Garrett and myself to review your existing financial plan today. And I do want you to remember, the markets aren't going to wait for you. Okay, so that is our opening for the second segment. We're going to keep doing our questions here, our listener questions. But Doug, here's the trivia question that we asked at the end of the first segment. Let's see if we stumped you. You've had a couple of minutes now to think about it. The 1968 American rock band Three Dog Night initially went by which of the following names? Was it A, Longview, B, Redwood, or C, the Sounders?
Well, you're right. Three Dog Night is one of my favorite bands, but quite honestly, I have no clue. I bet you know, though, because you're so into music.
You know, Garrett asked me that question, and I gave the wrong answer, actually. I thought it was the Sounders. Because that sounds like a name that the bands at that time would have given themselves.
Yeah.
The Beatles, the Sounders, whatever. But it's actually Redwood.
Redwood.
I don't know where's Three Dog Night from? They're a British band, aren't they?
I don't think so.
Oh, they were an American band?
I think.
Okay. Isn't they that's the band that did To Everything, Turn, Turn, Turn?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what the name Three Dog Night means, where that term came from?
Yeah, it's something about sleeping in the cold winters in Alaska with three dogs.
That's correct. That's how they rated how cold the night was, by how many dogs did you have to sleep with. That's exactly right. So you got that trivia question there. Very good. All right. Now let's go ahead and go back to our listener questions here. So we tackled Dan and Jenny in the first segment, and now let's go ahead and go to Wesley and Boone, Doug. And Wesley says, Doug, Brice, and Garrett, I'm almost 70 and I'm worried that I'll never be able to retire. I've always heard you need to have $1 million to retire, and I barely have half of that. Should I just plan to work forever?
Well,
what's the short answer there, Doug?
It depends.
Depends, Wesley.
Wesley, you don't have to have $1 million to retire, but you didn't give us enough information.
That's true.
What you really do is you need to come in and see, if not us, some really good retirement planners, and do a full-fledged retirement plan. My guess is you probably can retire, but it's going to depend upon your spending needs, your debt level, all that stuff.
Wesley, there is no one-size-fits-all quick mathematical scheme out there that says, now you can retire, now you can't. You have to have it's somebody just telling people, hey, here's the magic number. If you get this magic number, no questions asked, you can retire. And if you don't have it, no questions asked, you can't retire. That's complete hog dilly-wash there, Wesley. That number does not exist. We have seen clients, or we have clients here at the Wealth Guardians who have saved $100,000, but because of residual or passive income that they have in retirement from either rental income or from a veteran's pension that they have, they make thousands of dollars in retirement, and you supplement that with Social Security, and they are more than fine. So you have to take a look at the other sources of your income that you have, Wesley, in retirement. Maybe it's just Social Security, but you got to take a look at those sources of income, the tax bracket, what the average rate of inflation is going to be, what your average rate of return is going to be on your investments, and then take into account what your spending is. And is that spending going to go up or down? If you've got a mortgage right now, does that mortgage drop off in a few years? So we can help you figure that answer out, but it is certainly not an answer that Doug or I, or any financial planner or investment advisor for that matter, can just take one or two bits of information from you and give you that magical answer, yes or no. There's a lot of computations and calculations that go into that. And I would encourage you, Wesley, if you want to sit down with us so that we can accumulate all that information that we need so that we can tell you whether or not you can retire. I am sure, Wesley, you would agree that you would rather have all of that information in hand and know that answer before you retire, or before you worked 5 years longer than you thought you would have to, and then you found out that you didn't have to, right, Wesley?
Exactly.
So let's sit down, and let me give you our phone number. It's 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. And Wesley, I'm sure since you listen to us on the radio, we know you do because you wrote in this question, you know that there is no cost or obligation to sit down with us. And when we create a financial plan for you, that is a plan that a lot of advisors out there, financial planners, will charge a couple of $1,000s for. We don't charge you anything for it. It's yours to walk away with, and you can see what your retirement can look like. And if you want to go ahead and implement our strategies and our plan in the end so that you can retire the job and keep the paycheck, then by all means, it would have been worth your time. And the only cost to you is coming in and putting gas in the tank to get to our offices. So Wesley, thank you for the question. I hope we hear from you so that we can give you the full answer to that question. All right, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray. I'm Brice Payne, with Doug Ray here in the studio this weekend. And our next question comes from Cal in Burlington. And Doug, Cal asks us, my grandfather always told me the best investment you can ever make is dirt. So I've spent almost 35 years buying land in different places around the state. Now I'm land rich and cash poor, and a developer just made an offer to buy some of my property for $2 million, and it seems like I should sell to him. But I don't want to buy more land, so what do I do with this money?
Good question.
That is a good question, Cal, and we might have an answer for you.
Cal put all his eggs in one basket.
A lot of them anyway. Yep.
Sure enough. Yeah, some things to think about. If you sell to the developer, you're going to have to pay long-term capital gains tax. What you didn't tell us is this particular property, do you have rental properties on there? And if you've been depreciating them, you're going to have to recapture that depreciation. So, you could get hit with some pretty significant tax obligations in the sale of this property. Another idea you might consider is doing a 1031 tax-free exchange into a Delaware statutory trust. That way, you don't have to pay the capital gains tax. The trust itself will invest in income-producing properties, and that way you'll get an income from this $2 million.
That's exactly right. So, Cal, a lot of people out there, even people who are property heavy like you are, have not heard that term before, Delaware Statutory Trust. It doesn't have anything to do with Delaware, so we're eligible for it out here. We've helped clients get into these. But here's the thing, Cal, as Doug said, that's a way of taking the proceeds from a sale of property and not pay the taxes on them. It's kind of like rolling over a 401k into an IRA. It's a non-taxable event. The trick with the Delaware Statutory Trust, Cal, is that when you sell the property, they have to make the check out to the trust. They cannot make the check out to you. Now, it doesn't have to be the full $2 million. Maybe you want to take $1 million and go invest it in something else, but you don't want to do the whole. You don't want to have a whole $2 million taxable event. So you can take whatever size check you want them to write to the trust instead of you. Once they do that, that income or the gains that you made off of that property sale is not taxable for the time being, and you can invest in other rental income or some other type of property that you are not the manager of. But, Doug and I have no idea what the true market value is of your $2 million property that you're being offered. We don't know what kind of income you're generating off of that. Even if it's not rental income, are you foresting the land at all? So you might have some other income there that we would want to know about to help tell you whether or not $2 million is a fair price for it. But Cal, great question. Thank you for that. And
let me add one other thing about this DST, Delaware Statutory Trust. Inevitably, you can take this DST, and when you pass away, your beneficiaries will get the step up in basis, so they can then go ahead and sell it with no tax.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So it's to pass that on, that great tax savings on to your beneficiaries if you never use that yourself. All right, Doug, we've got, thank you, Cal, for the question. Doug, we've got time for one more quick question here from Olive in Germantown. And she says, I just started a new job and won't be eligible for their 401k until I've been there for 6 months. Where should I be saving money in the meantime?
Well, there's always IRAs, there's Roth IRAs, and, if you're self-employed, you could put SEP, Simplified Employee Pension Plan.
If there's some self-employment that you've got, Olive, on top of your regular W-2 employment, then you might be eligible for a SEP. But I'm glad that you're thinking about where do you save this money. And if you're not eligible for the 401k yet, then by all means, just save it either in an IRA, a Roth account, or a non-qualified account. And there's nothing stopping you from maxing out your 401k and throwing money into an IRA as well, or a Roth.
Totally.
Yep. So that's a great question, Olive, and I'm glad that you're thinking about retirement there. And hopefully that when you do open up the 401k and start investing in that, hopefully they've got some good investment options in there for you.
Well, Brice, let me just say this. Olive lives in Germantown, not Germantown.
Not Germantown. I can never get that straight.
Well, I'm a native of Winston-Salem.
I know you are. So, yeah, I always get that wrong because there's Pfafftown up there. I don't know. Pfafftown. Some of them are town, some of them are and forgive me out there for having my Western accent right there on my sleeve. So, but anyway, Doug, thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, folks, that's all the time that we have for our listener questions this week. I do want to thank you for joining us this weekend morning. We hope the rest of your weekend is everything you want it to be. This is Brice Payne along with Doug Ray in the studios. The show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And do remember, please, sound financial plans do not create themselves. This is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. This is 96.7 FM WTOB.